intermarried with the Indians. Some of them went down to Florida and mixed in with the Seminoles. And so this was, this is like, 1840s, 1850s. In the early 2010s, one of the Cherokee nations in Oklahoma tried to kick out all of the uh, black Indians, people who were part American Indian and part black,
Mm.
and it became literally a federal case. And we've got the whole thing: are they sovereign? Are they not sovereign? And each because each nation picks what criteria you have that you can join, as with your heritage to be a member of their nation or not. And this actually went to federal court, and the federal court said 2013 said if these folks who are part African American and part Cherokee, if they have the same qualifications as you have for someone who is white and part Cherokee, you have to have the same qualifications for people who are of mixed race, regardless. And it's like, this is 2013. People,
Mhm.
get with the program.
So I don't think that we will ever truly 100% figure it out. The goal, I think, is to get closer, and I think we're getting
Well,
closer, slowly but surely.
yeah, I want to relate to you a conversation I had with one gentleman during the exhibit opening. I said, when you look at some of these science fiction things set way in the future, like the Star Trek or whatever, I said the people look wrong. Take all the races, dump them together, stir it up. That's what people are going to look like in hundreds of years.
Pretty much.
And that's when the distinctions will disappear.
And we're seeing more and more families where I when I was 40 years ago, I didn't know anybody who had any intermarried people who were not white. I didn't. But
A
now,
mixed marriage was German and Italian.
yeah,
Exactly.
honestly, my grandparents had to run away. They had to elope to get married because that was a mixed marriage. And therefore they came back. They were married. Then their families said, okay, fine. you know. But
People,
I've told that story to people, and they just kind of look at me like, are you from Mars? And I'm no, that's how it was.
yeah. Was versus is totally different. I mean, once upon a time, if you saw a mixed marriage, it raised eyebrows. Now you can see not only mixed marriages, but they can be of the same sex, and it doesn't raise an eyebrow. Things have just changed. But that would be another podcast for another day.
I'm having to giggle because, of course, we were not partners, but I shared a house with a couple I knew, and they had two little girls.
Okay.
And on occasion, Ron and I would go grocery shopping, and he would have one in one shopping cart, and I would have the other in the other shopping cart. And the stares two men had with babies, you would not believe. Again, like you were saying, this was 40 years ago.
Correct. Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to mention about the exhibit is, and most of this is Netley's property, a little bit of his other people's, but it's an excellent art exhibit. She has some paintings there from some Haitian artwork, and real bright and real wonderful pictures. She's got some little statuettes that somehow relate to Alex Haley, the fellow who did Roots. He had a series of these little statuettes commissioned with his approval. There is a section in there
signed by him.
Yeah, there's
really
one of the cases is political. It does have some Martin Luther King original buttons in there. There are a number of photographs because of I think basically Netley was there when they first the parties that they had when they first made his birthday a national holiday, and then there are some President Obama, because that's, you know, could you imagine somebody from, you know, Franklin County in 1870 saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, it'll be 120 years. Yeah, we'll have a black president." No, it would just be, you know, too out of this world to, and to me that's the cool thing. Not that he was elected, but he was elected a second time.
Yeah, elected and reelected. And
Right.
when people talk about how America is such a racist country, I have to ask the question: if we're such a racist country, how did a country that's 12% black elect a black president twice?
Hmm. Well,
Which
I
is not,
think,
which by the way is not to say that we don't have racism in this country, because we certainly do. I'm not that naive, but to say that everything America's about is racist is just wrong, and we're getting better all the time.
yeah,
I'm confident of that.
I think it's making a lot of news now because the hardcore people who are racist are feeling very much backed in a corner, and they are biting and scratching and yelling.
Well,
But
I think you're right. It's not.
they are still very much a small number,
Mhm. And shrinking all the time,
and and that makes them feel threatened.
well, and it's not only the people who think that way and act that way. It's not so much that not only do they have absolutely no power, but they're almost just discounted and overlooked by virtually everybody else, like they're not there.
Well, nobody is not there, but this is one of the other things that seems to be in trouble in our country right now with regard to democracy. The thing is, everybody's voice counts, and the only way you're ignored and don't count is if you don't vote.
That's true. That's very true. Well, hey, I wanted to ask another question before we sign off. I do appreciate the time that you folks gave on your on a cold, ugly winter Wednesday evening. But Joe, you mentioned that I think you said the exhibit is going to be a part of the museum from now on, or is it just going to be there for a limited time?
The exhibit, as it sits now, will only be there until about the 1st of March.
Okay.
The I think there's 8 panels that are with this traveling exhibit from the State Museum
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to Jeff City, and a lot of things that belong to the Clay and Generally families. They'll go home with them. But we are planning 2 things. The first of is which part of one of those cases is going to be permanently an exhibit featuring the local families.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, Pat and Netley are already thinking about next year.
Very good. So this may turn into an annual event.
Yes, and we are actually going out there tomorrow to meet with the honors history class from the high school. Later on in the month of February, one of the teachers who teaches freshman English, she's going to bring her classes over, and the superintendent of schools came in and he just says, "This is totally amazing. We need to get our people over here. We need to get those kids to see, what's going on." The 15-minute little history video that Eugene put together is probably going to be a part of it in some way. We are distributing that if there's somebody who's interested and they've got a jump drive. We're not making any money off of this at all, but we've had 3 or 4 people say, "Hey, can I have a copy of that?" Including one person that says, "I want to show that at my black church next sometime in February."
Mm-hmm. Well, if people wanted to come out and, of course, look at see the exhibit in person, or if they wanted to see it virtually, How can they do that?
Well, the museum is open noon to 2 on any Saturday that we're not snowed in or it's a holiday. We because we're all volunteer, we tend to not, the museum would have been open on Christmas, and it's like, no, we're not going to do that. But because nobody would show up.
Sure.
But we are open noon to 2 every Saturday. If there's some reason we're not going to be up there, we do put a note out on the Saint People Making St. Clair Succeed Facebook page, and
the museum has a Facebook page too and
right,
a website.
Right. We don't really have a way to do this virtually.
Okay.
As Eugene said, if this were actually being put on by the State Museum with people working every day, it would have taken 4 or 5 months to put something like this together. But the other thing is, if your regular work day is Saturday and you never get off on Saturdays, they can call one of these 2 numbers, and that is one of 636-667-4162 is mine, and Carla, the president, her number is 636-667-0231. And if we've got 2 or 3 people that want to come out during the week or on a Sunday, and we can make arrangements to open for this special exhibit.
Okay, very good. Joe Schaper, Eugene Vale, thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate it. You both take care and stay warm.
Okay. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would request one thing.
What's that?
Tell Mr. Gray Falcon about this.
I will do that. I will. Well, he gets the regular email, but I will point that out to him, and I will tell him that this is a special request from you. How's that?
I enjoy listening to him on your podcast.
He's a smart guy. If he hears this, it'll embarrass him, but he's kind of off the record. He's kind of off the chart smart. He's just a real bright guy, and he's a smart guy too. So yes, I will pass that information on to him.
I'd like to jump in with something else. If you're going to call one of those 2 numbers for an appointment, try and give them a couple days notice.
Yeah, that would be best, instead of saying, "Hey, what are you doing this afternoon?"
Yeah, well, sometimes that's possible, but sometimes it isn't.
Sure, understood. Thank you to both of you. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Okay,
Take care. That's Joe Schaper, Eugene Vale. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. That's the email address. If you like, send me your email address, and I will send you a link to the podcast upon publication, so you can download it and listen to it at your leisure. Also, you can hear the show on Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, you name it, it's on it. Just pick whatever podcaster, Brad Hildebrand's podcast station. And you can also hear the podcast on terrestrial radio on usually quite often on KSOQ. That's 104.5 in the Union, Washington area between 10 and midnight. Brad puts me and others on occasionally. Anyway, that's it. Hey, thanks for your time. Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.